Hello everyone, welcome back. It's Empyrion Galactic Survival Episode 10. I'm Enigmius, and today we're continuing with our small vessel. We've been making good progress, even though it might not necessarily look like it from where we're standing. Lots of time-consuming stuff, just in terms of the shaping and getting things set up the way that we want it to be. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, because I was enjoying the process. So that's the long and short of what I've been doing for the last couple days. And we're going to switch to the drone views, just so we can get a different perspective, a little bit quicker and easier in terms of exactly what's going on here. So we've been focusing on the top area here, which is very simple and straightforward, and these side areas that I kind of wanted them to be sort of like wings that were curved down, and then a few more curves here and there before they met up with the main body again. It's a little bit difficult to do in a voxel world where the greatest angle that you can, or the smallest angle you can work with, is 22.5 degrees. But we got it to look different, and sometimes different is the best thing that it can be, as long as it's not the same. That's like philosophy or something, I don't know. And I was also messing around, and I don't know if I'm going to keep it or not, but you see the recesses for the thrusters here, how they're that kind of rounded sort of shape. It reminds me of like a 1950s or 1960s era, like alien spacecraft, when they were just kind of making stuff up as they went along, even if it wasn't necessarily practical. And I kind of like it. There's a part of me that really likes it on this ship, and then there's a part of me that's kind of like, it's so round and everything else is so angular, whether we want it to be or not, that we may or may not keep it in the long run. It's one of those things we can just leave it for now and sort it out and see what we like when we get to the point where we have to make a decision. And the rest of the work that we have to do is fairly straightforward. So I have to finish extending around the front end. And again, this is kind of like a spaced armor sort of concept, where there's the exterior armor and then there's largely a gap between that armor and the underlying, central armor, and it extends all the way around the ship. So there are points, obviously, where they have to make contact, because that's the only way that it works, is if they're connected in some way. But this space, if there's any kind of damage transfer that's based on going from one block to adjacent blocks, this kind of defeats that in a lot of different areas, just by not having any way for the damage to go except for across the outer armor instead of directly through the central armor. And that's the theory that we're going to run with. Could be absolutely wrong, could be bang on. Doesn't really matter at this point. So today, what we're going to work on, the real-time build segment, is we're actually going to work on the entrance to the ship, because we've got this door down here, and this door is basically attached to the central armor section, the hardened steel blocks, and we want to have a little bit of a ramp, and then another door that's connected to the regular steel blocks, and that will be the exterior door, and then pass through that to the interior door and then into the ship. And that's how we're going to preserve the spaced armor where the doors happen to be, and then we can move on from there and kind of fill out everything else around it. One other thing is I'm not saying that we're finished on the back, but we've finished the kind of tricky parts in terms of figuring out how everything is going to come together and how everything is ultimately going to look going forward. Now that this is done, and you can see everything is kind of flush with the back end, we've got sort of like the wing things that meet up with the back end of the ship, the way we had it set up. They're all nice and neatly connected now, so when we finally finish the lower portion of the ship and go to do the detailing on the back end, it's going to be much easier, because all the hard work and all the difficult connections have already been done. It'll give us a lot more liberty to decide what we want to do and how we want to do it. So now, fortunately, we don't need a ton of blocks to do this, because I don't have a ton of blocks made up. We've been going through hundreds and hundreds of blocks. It's absolutely astounding. I should be accustomed to that by now, but every once in a while it just kind of takes me by surprise, and I think, wow, how did we use so many blocks? And I've learned to count the projectiles for the removal tools so that we get only the things that we need. And don't damage blocks behind the ones that we were trying to remove and things of that nature. Just because it's a little bit of conservation in the power supply sort of arena. We don't want to use up any more power than we absolutely have to for now, because we've got so many things that are drawing from our power reserves. We're probably going to have to go and do some more promethium mining before too long. And again, that's not a bad thing. That's kind of par for the course for a resource and crafting based survival game, so I'm okay with it. But we sometimes a little bit of conservation saves us from having to go around when we don't necessarily want to and do things, as opposed to deciding, you know what, I'm due for a break from all this building stuff. Maybe now is a good time for me to go and get some more promethium, just as something different. So speaking of something different, very simple, very straightforward. And now the main thing is, I want to get some flat blocks here that the door will fit on. And then we're going to take a look up here. Now, I specifically left this little gap here because it mirrors the top of the door, and that way we can get kind of a hopefully accurate idea of where everything is going to line up. Now, I'm working on a solution that will in the future allow me to do more like time-lapse builds where we have sort of like a secondary camera position that's looking on as we wander around and do different things, and the recording is done from that point of view instead of our first-person point of view, which will allow us to do more time-lapsed sort of things, third-person sort of things where you can watch builds as they happen from a distance, where you can get a view of the big picture as it's coming together, as opposed to this up-close business and the kind of review after the fact kind of format. Now that's kind of the idea that we're going for. So you can see it's not coming down on the right angle. If we continue with this angle, it's going to basically merge right there. And if we kind of just go straight down with the blocks, it's not going to look right. It's going to be coming down like this, and then it's going to go like that. It's not what we're looking for. So before we get too far in, should be easy enough. Try out option number 2. And this guy. Now, in terms of the merging of the outer hull with this sort of threshold, that's a bit better. But in terms of how it's going to fit together with the rest of the hull and the stuff coming around, we have to be careful at this point how we want to design it, because if we're planning on carrying this contour all the way down this way and all the way towards the front, I don't think we would be happy with it. So this is the point where we say, okay, well, we're going to have a little bit of a section that's kind of stuck out from the side of the ship a little bit, and that's where we're going to have the door on the threshold, and then the rest of the hull will be sort of contoured a little bit more, and that will follow along. We'll keep the spacing that we want, and also keep the aesthetic that we want, and hopefully between the two approaches we'll get the outcome that we're looking for. I don't mind when things kind of stick out from time to time, because done well, it can actually add to a lot of builds, not just the builds that I do, but builds that I've seen other people do as well. Whenever you've got that little thing, that indescribable sort of something going on, it's usually because something is different, not because everything is uniform. And in this case, we're definitely aiming for something a little bit different in order to support this door system that we want, without necessarily committing ourselves to a look that we're not going to like with the rest of the hull. So what we'll do is bring this guy down, crossing our fingers that we don't run out of blocks. That guy, and that guy. Now what I can foresee doing is getting some more hardened steel blocks. I've got 12 left, but that's probably not enough. And pulling that down from the central hull to fill in these gaps here so that it's all closed in. But if I were to take the regular steel blocks and remove the sloped ones in here and put in the regular ones so that it's closed in, I'm kind of compromising the core armor a little bit, and I don't want to do that. So, like so many things, we're pretty close to being done with this section, and we're going to leave it for a little while and make our final decision. But for now, we're just going to wrap this up with these guys in here. And that guy, and that guy. We'll close this in. One more. And then the little details that we can put on. Wow, how did that? I don't even know how I did that. But we'll pretend like it was on purpose, I guess. There we go. So now that's got a certain look to it. It'll be extending out from the rest of the hull. When I need to get up on here in order to place the door. Did I bring the door with me, or is it inside? It's inside. I've turned off the reactor in here so that I don't have to worry about using up the power. That's how stingy I am with power these days. And we'll take that guy. And what I want to do is I want to leave a bit of a lip that you can land on when you're getting into the ship. You can kind of hop up on it, land on it, and open the door if you have to. So when we rotate it, we're going to make sure we rotate it that way. And then when we open it, oops, station-sized stuff, that's what we're left with. And now you can see a minor detail, but there's a gap between the top of the door and the outer or the inner hull, I guess, which should be easily fixed with this. That's the one, and it comes across like so. And because we've got some other round things, let's do the round slope. So that'll be sort of the threshold to get from the outside of the ship to the inside, past two doors, to allow for the spaced armor to maintain a certain amount of continuity all the way across. And then since we've already got these slightly rounded elements, we'll put a little bit of a rounded element here. And then I'm hoping that maybe it'll kind of support the idea of having these guys. If these were the only rounded ones, I think we'd have to change them out. But if we put some very carefully, strategically chosen rounded blocks here and there, we might find that these guys will fit quite well with what we're doing. So now, how many blocks do I have? I think what we should do is take a look at the prospect of extending this part. And we'll see what it looks like. That's as far as it'll let me stretch it. And this guy, with any luck, we'll have enough blocks. And then around here, bring it along there. This guy, and again, I find for me it's just easier if we're blocking things in to not worry too much about the details. Obviously we have a plan and something that we're aiming for, and we kind of want to stick to that, but in terms of getting everything just right on the first pass, not really much of a concern for me. Oh, that's the side of the door sticking out of there. Okay, I just saw that and I was like, what the hell is going on now? It's just the side of the door sticking out of the wall. I guess if that's what the door wants to do, who am I to argue? Go like that. The only thing that I've been thinking about that might be a cause for concern is the weight. When I was testing it and trying to get it off of our nice little wooden block pedestal, it seemed to have so much thrust it was almost difficult to keep from, breaching the atmosphere. But we've added a lot since then, and I don't know if we can necessarily count on the thrusters we have to get us airborne. So maybe what we'll do is we'll do the bottom section last, the very bottom section last. We'll do the front section after we've done the side sections. Then we'll do the back section, and then we'll test it, and if we need more thrusters for lift, we can put them in place before we have to worry about redetailing the underside, and then we'll go from there. So this is a pretty good look at the whole idea of displaced armor, if it wasn't evident from previous discussions. Because we've got this big cavity in between here. If there's going to be damage that hits here and wants to transfer somewhere, and it has to transfer to an adjacent block, there's only so many places it can go. But again, this is just a huge leap of assumption on my part, and shouldn't be taken as any kind of hard and fast strategic application of anything. I need to see if we've got any more blocks, because if not, that'll be it for today. I started making concrete blocks because they look the same as the steel blocks. And when I realized that it was using up all of my water and concrete powder, I stopped it. But I've still got a little bit of concrete there as a reminder to start building the right stuff, start making the right stuff. I'm going to put that in with the rest of the things, and we can probably get about 500 more of the steel blocks before we have to start looking at other solutions for iron, because we're kind of running out. This constructor is basically out of iron. There's if we had to make more of these steel plates, we wouldn't be able to, because that's all I've got, 3 iron ingots. Unless there's some hiding down below. Nope. 3 iron ingots there. Hardly anything there. I have some steel plates here that I've been using for... Oh, we don't want to be leaving those there. That's a bad place for our food. But we are due for a snack. I had these steel plates in the food processor that we use for making the growth plots, or the grow boxes, whatever they are. And last but not least, yeah, rock dust. Incomplete stacks of these guys. All of these things need 5 in order to refine it to the next step, and obviously we don't have 5 of any of them, so that one kind of stays there. We're gonna have to go mining for some more iron before we can finish this ship. Crazy. But you kind of get the idea where we're going with it. It's gonna be a fat, bulky little ship. There's no getting around it at this point, no matter what we do. And I'm just hoping that it's worth it. Next episode, we'll have a lot more done on the outer hull. That's the idea, is I want to have some sort of progress done so we can just show you what we've done without having to sit there and watch me spinning blocks the whole time. And then try and get some more weapons onto this guy, because a pair of Gatling guns is really kind of a embarrassment for a ship of this size and stature to just have these 2 guys there and nothing else to throw at bad guys who otherwise outgun us in every imaginable category. Once we get everything done, we're just going to cruise the planet for things to do. We'll mine some stuff, we will kill some stuff, whatever we happen to find, and then once we've gathered enough materials to start building another ship that's going to take even more materials than this one, we're going to start building our first capital ship and look at getting off this planet to finding some of the more rare materials that allow us to build the next tier of tools and weapons and things of that nature. So we've got lots to do. And if you want to be notified when we do it, you can always subscribe to my channel or follow me on social media. Links for social media are always in the information box below the video. Feel free to leave your comments and feedback. Thanks for watching, guys, and take care.